Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Basic Science Podcast, where we freely discuss about science, research, and academia. I have my dear friend today, Roger. How are you, Roger, today?
I'm fine. Excited to be here.
Yes. So tell us more about you, Roger. So what's your academic, path? Where are you in this crazy world of academia?
Okay, so right now I'm a research associate at the SickKids in Toronto. So I started in Barcelona, but I did a bachelor in biotechnology. At that time it was super exciting because we compared with biology, we were doing a lot of cloning, operation of bioreactors and things like that. At that time that was 2005 to 2009. That was not really how biology bachelor was going, so that was fun. Then I did after that the master's in biomedicine, and the PhD was biomedicine, molecular biology and biochemistry. And I became kind of an expert on cell cycle and DNA damage checkpoint, that I really like it. And then I finished my PhD, and it was the 2014 crisis in Europe. Okay. So yeah, I came to Canada. I worked first on how the DNA is organized when the cells divide, and after that I moved to another lab at also in Montreal, where I work in synthetic biology. And from there I moved to Toronto doing the same, synthetic biology.
Okay. How can you explain what is synthetic biology? I feel like it's a really crazy field in science where you can just be Frankenstein.
Yeah. So synthetic biology, I think that there is so many definitions. It depends on how you do it, right? But mainly you introduce something in a cell or a biological system that it's not there originally, that it comes from another system, and you modify your cell to do something unexpected. For example, if you are working with human cells, you modify them to express and produce a specific protein in a specific condition, or you create circuits, cells that talk to each other and behave like a circuit. So depending on the input, they have a different output. It can be many things, like also how the information is transmitted between cells and coordinating this. It's just mainly playing with the cells and modifying them to do things that they were not expected to do, that biology don't let them do originally.
Okay. And how do you like this field compared to what you've done?
Okay, so that's a really good question. So I feel like originally I was trying to understand how the cells behave in conditions like they are under stress. So how the cells avoid to transmit misinformation and to transmit damage to the daughters when they divide. Because these are mechanisms that work through all our life and prevents cancer to appear, right? And it was super interesting. It's like building a puzzle in which let's say you normally know, in a puzzle, you know the corners. So in this kind of the area where you're working, and you try to identify the pieces in between and build a puzzle. So it's super exciting. But at the same time, it's really demanding in three different views. The first one is that if you are not the first one to describe something, whatever you describe, there is not much of a value. It's like in science, there are not silver or bronze medals. The second thing is that if you have to really justify why are you doing what you're doing. What I mean is I was working with yeast, budding yeast that you use normally for beer or for bread, and you have to explain always, why is this relevant? And at some point it may be relevant, but the thing is that it's knowledge. So just knowledge for the sake of knowledge, I enjoy it, but it gets cumbersome when you have to ask for money. And the third point is that it's normally really competitive, small niche. So I enjoy it, but to make a career, it's much, much harder, I think. While in synthetic biology, you can do so many things. And even if you are the second one to describe it, it's not exactly the same way to do this. It's like a small variation, and there is still merit. There is still merit if you are the second one to describe a mechanism in cell cycle. But the thing is that the field doesn't see the merit in the same way that in system biology. And I think that that's what I like about system biology. It's more collaborative. It's more...
I see.
Yeah.
I see. So On a more personal question, like what motivates you to go into science? What's the driven, flame for you?
So the thing is that my dad, he is a science teacher in high school. Now he's retired, but he was.
Mm-hmm.
So he was teaching biology and geology. So the thing is, like in every vacation, we were going like to the beach, and then he was explaining, oh, here you can see like how this beach is formed. And then we went to a forest, and he was just talking to all the trees, to all the fungi, and everything that we were doing, there was a biological or scientific explanation, right? So that was super exciting. And it was like in the daily life. So we had like a small garden. So, and they were like, okay, so why tomatoes are like this, and why they grow this way. So everything had a science explanation behind. So I think that I really enjoyed science since a kid, and I was always asking why. And the thing also is that my dad has been a really role model.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, my mom was, she's also like a teacher, like primary school.
Okay.
So I think like the knowledge has been always like there, like both my mom and my dad. But I could have done something else. I just think that also it was at that time, science like was giving me like, you don't know the answers of life. So science is similar. You don't know the answers of questions, right? So you go through, I think that when you're a teenager, science is something really interesting, like technology or engineering, and anything that it was related to science or technology was motivating me.
And my second question I had for you is based on what you said for synthetic biology.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel doing science that not a lot of people do?
It's quite exciting to do something new and to do something that it's unexpected. But the thing that also it's hard because there is a lot of uncertainty. You're going to try things that may or may not work.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be comfortable with uncertainty. And now I'm more comfortable with this, but I've never been like that.
Mm-hmm.
I was not like that before. So I think that when I was a PhD, I couldn't have worked with synthetic biology because I need something that it was more certain, that it gives you like a path, right? You follow, there are steps. In synthetic biology, you can have like big jumps because you can have a new idea, a new possible circuit, a new possible modification of your cells that are going to behave in a completely different way. But yeah, you have to be really comfortable with not knowing if it's going to work and with abandoning things, changing, moving forward, adapting to the field. And also, synthetic biology, there is a huge amount of collaboration because normally there is integration of many different circuits, technologies. So you have to be really open to sharing, which is something that in science, a lot of people feel like it's my project, it's my baby. And it is not because it's based on a lot of work done before. But if you are really like, if you have this mentality and if you want results or a story, maybe synthetic biology is not for you. At least the one that I'm working. There are several approaches to synthetic biology. But yeah, you have to be comfortable with uncertainty and giving up things because they don't work.
What would you say to our audience if they listen and it's hard for them to give up on a project?
Well, I think that not just in a scientific project in life, it's worth it to give up things when they don't work out. It's hard, but the thing is that if they are not meant to be, they are not meant to be. You cannot force things. And in science, many times we just focus on like, oh yeah, this was my idea. Well, you are wrong. You're not that smart. And it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. If it was obvious, somebody would have done it before. Because, I mean, I was in a PhD thesis a couple of weeks ago, and I was really mad because there was a sentence that said, this control was obvious. It wasn't obvious. It is now because they described it like 20 years ago. But 20 years ago, there was a really hot topic question. It was not obvious. There were different approaches. So I think that you have to have resilience, But at some point, if things don't go forward, there is merit in also giving up and saying, I reached this point, it's fine, it's okay. And giving up, it's hard because you have to be okay with this decision for the rest of your life. You give up today and tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. It's not that you give up today and that's it. So there is a lot of merit on people giving up PhDs because it's not what they want, masters, dreams. Yeah. And don't be ashamed. Just don't give up. If you give up something, don't feel like, oh, I failed. No. You don't fail. You decided actively to stop doing something. That's not failure. You took a decision.
You aborted a topic that I would like to discuss maybe later, but I wanted to come back to this topic of surprise. How do you feel about the surprise effect in research? Like sometimes you have an idea, it doesn't turn out to be the good one, or you have unexpected results. How do you deal with that?
Well, I think that when you have a crazy idea that works, crazy in the thing that it's completely unexpected and out of like what has been done before completely, it's really exciting and it keep you working, it keep you moving, right? When you had something super clear was going to work, oh yeah, that has to work, and it doesn't, I think that it's something you have a really humble feeling in like, okay, yeah, I'm not that smart. And I think that we all need that, like to remember like, yeah, that's good. So there are many things that I don't know yet. Also at the same time, it's hard, right? Because there is not just time invested for you, there are expectations, because maybe a project is based on that. So if that doesn't work, you may lose your finance, you may lose your funding. But yeah, I think that the feeling of like my point of view on these things that it's like, it doesn't work every day. Yeah? And it's like how I try to see, like I try to like convert the things into positive. Initially I get super mad and I'm disappointed and I go home and I like duck it. But then the next day you realize how cool is that these obvious hypotheses, obvious that it wasn't because it didn't work out, it makes you realize that there are so many things for you to learn that maybe somebody else know. And yeah, also I think that there is a really important thing to say regarding crazy ideas. Innovation comes normally from people outside the field, or that they just join the field. Because if you are really for long, you have your own mindset. So it's really hard to think outside of the distribution, outside of your field. So listening to people that it's new and they have just started, maybe they have ideas that they are like, technically they don't sound feasible, but the broad idea, it's like completely game changing. And listening to that, these new ideas, not saying, oh, that's stupid. Not. Maybe the way you formulated it is like, well, you missed the experience, but the idea that you had, it's completely new. And when these ideas that are new work, I think that it's really, the feeling is like, well, there are still many things to discover that we really don't know.
Yeah. Speaking of crazy people, how do you feel about some of the scientists we have through history? Like, for example, I'm thinking of, I don't remember their name, but those Australian doctors that were claiming that the stomach inflammation was caused by a bacteria that we know now is H. pylori. And they just had a AC tube and they took the bacteria inside to cause the stomach inflammation, and then they treat themselves with the antibiotic to say this is a way to to prove that there's bacteria living in our stomach.
That's okay. So first of all, just a disclaimer, in many countries, this is not considered ethic. And in some publications, this will not pass the bar because you are like experimenting on yourself. But at some point, if you really think that you are right, it's better to experiment on yourself than in others. Being said that, I think also that this brings to a big problem in science, that it's how new ideas are treated. And outside of the paradigm, okay, so we assume that something works this way. If somebody says, no, it doesn't, it's really hard to change the mind of people, even if the proof are there, even if you show the data. It's hard. And then, I don't know if I would say it's a great idea to experiment on yourself, because then some people may messed up badly. But hey, it worked and it changed completely. So it's really hard. It's really hard to say. I would say, don't do it at home. Don't do it at home. Kids, don't do it. But hey, if you think you're right and nobody else give you the chances, well, if it's not life-threatening, maybe go for it. But of course, I mean, we're talking about doctors or scientists, not like biohackers.
Yeah.
That they are like, yeah, I'm going to do CRISPR on myself. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. Like, for example, I am teaching a molecular biology class for bachelors, and they're really learning the basis of molecular biology. And I introduced the topic of the Crispr babies to them.
Oh yeah, the Chinese. Yeah.
So far, I think they're alive, based on the news. But if we can trust the news that they're still alive, let's see. Like so far, this experiment for me, it's working. I don't know. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, experiment needs to have controls, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know how to see it. And also the other thing is that the ethics change quite a bit.
Yeah.
So what was ethical like 20 years ago, now it's not. And what is ethical to do now for example, with animals, it may not be ethical in 20, 30 years. Maybe we're going to say, what the hell are we doing to animals? It's like completely inhumane.
Yeah.
Then I don't consider the CRISPR babies experiment because there are no controls. I consider just some random person doing, oh yeah, well, I'm going to do that because I want to do it. Yeah. And also the thing is that we do science for human knowledge. So if the knowledge is not open source and the people cannot see it and they cannot trust us, I don't know. Are we doing it for our own ego, or are we doing it to advance knowledge? And I think that these kind of experiments are just ego. Then I don't consider an experiment. And second, if the data is not available, I would disregard it. It's like, yeah, somebody did that. It's really good to discuss it in an ethics class, to discuss it between people and have different opinions.
Yeah.
And just like, okay, guys, just give me your free opinion and discuss it in class, in bachelor, like, and not only in science, also discuss it in like a law school, discuss it in like philosophy, psychology, even theology. Why not? Listening to all the perspective. But as a scientist, I don't know. I mean, I cannot have access to the data.
Yeah.
I would not really discuss it even.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, well, we'll see. Like probably what you say, human people are slowly shifting toward more egocentric, society. So probably we will see those techniques putting in place to, probably enhance our capacity, but more in a personal level. I don't know.
I don't know. I think that.
Is it ethical to change your DNA on yourself if you do it yourself, or is it ethical to change the other person DNA?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that, okay, so if you change it in your progeny,
Mm-hmm.
there is eugenesis and all this kind of thing. This is another, I don't think it's ethical to, let's say, okay, I'm going to, that's a really complex, I think it's that, okay, oof, that's a really complex question. So I would explain a thing. I'm a geek and I really like Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Yeah.
In one of the episodes, there is this society in which they counter-select any kind of defect. So if you are blind, you are not born. If you are deaf, you are not born. So there is one of the engineers that's called George LaForge. He's blind, but his visor allows him to see like infrared and allow to see many other things. The thing is that in this society, he would have never been born because he had a defect.
Yeah.
But what it is a defect? Because this person have other enhanced capacities. They see the world in a different way. I used to think, if you are not able to see, then, I don't know, maybe you shouldn't be born. But then the thing is that if you shouldn't be, why not? This person is going to see the world in another way. It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
And as a parent, it's going to be super hard because you don't have the perspective of the world that the kid have. But at the same point, the child is viable. It is viable. Then the survival is going to be challenging. Then I don't know. I don't have enough knowledge to say if it's ethic or not to select your progeny. Then on myself, I think that freedom is that you can do whatever on your body. I think that, and especially in the world that we live right now, in which with all the gender issues, discussion, you want to modify your genes, yes, go for it. Then the consequences are yours. I don't think then that if you have consequences, like the public health has to take care of it. You do it on your own risk. It was not an approved therapy. Hey, that's your business. But that's freedom. People can do piercing, tattoo, shave the head. You want to change your DNA? That's your own risk. But that's freedom. Yeah.
I wanted to come back to this question since you already have a lot of experience in the field. Do you see like changes in trend of research? Like we sometimes hear, the research done, 30 years, 40 years ago is not the same as today, or is it the same? It's just like we enhance our tools to do research.
Well, that's really interesting, and I think that when I started in 2009, I really enjoyed reading papers in genetics because they were like kind of clean and nice, and you could see a reasoning behind it, and they were easy to follow. And now what I see with time is that papers get technically so complex, so amazing. This is great. But you need to be super specialist in many fields to follow it. And I remember being in a conference and saying, if you are lazy and you try to do something really simple, normally it's quite complicated. It's really difficult to do. It's really easy to do a really complex experiment. To do a simple experiment that answers a given question with the minimal set of experiments, it's super hard. And I feel like the science is getting super complicated. Now to publish a really high impact factor, you need so many fancy techniques, so many analyses. If you have discovered something amazing and you just have Westerns and genetics, you're going to be disregarded in many journals because it's not fancy. And I think it's sad. I think it's really sad because there are so many basic questions that we don't know. And just because you do something really complex, it doesn't mean that it's smart. it's getting. I think it's getting super complicated, and that's also why society is getting lost. Because we do super fancy things, but it's really difficult, even if you're in the field, but it's not exactly your narrow area. It's difficult to follow.
Yeah.
And this is like something we have to think about it. Are we doing science for ourselves or for the rest? For the general, for all the field? It's yeah. I think it's like science is getting really, 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 really complicated.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading a paper in which I'm supposed to be an expert, and a lot of things I didn't. Not even like, okay, this technique exactly how has been done, because changing these parameters is going to change the outcome. And it's like, that's really complicated. I'm lost. And I was reading some papers on the 90s. They were super clean, super nice, and I love it. Maybe because I'm not that smart, and it's possible. Maybe I'm average. I'm an average scientist, but yeah, I have issues now following some papers.
Yeah, I agree with you, Roger, because I also had to do a journal club yesterday, and the technique was so complicated. I was like I admire this, but it's like it's become, can we really trust what we see? Like it's like the results are going here and there, and then they try to merge everything together to make a nice figure, and it's like my question is, are we getting lazy as scientists, so we go through complicated technique instead of banging our head to simplify the design and to have a simplified result that it could explain the what we observe?
It could be so many things. It could be that, yes, using fancy techniques open many doors, and at the end of the day, this is a business. We need to get funding. We need to get to pay the people that work on the projects, and we need to keep on going. Also, we are trying to answer super complicated questions and micro details, right? Yeah, it's. I think that it also depends on the field.
Yeah.
I'm on the. What I used to be an expert, it was cell cycle on yeast. But yeah, it gets extrapolated a little bit to humans, but yeast is something really easy to modify. The controls are kind of less complicated than human. So I'm used to working something that it's like kind of a logic system.
Yeah.
You modify A and you have an output.
Yeah.
Now we modify system that you modify A, nothing happens. You modify B, nothing happens. You modify A and B, and a little bit it's changing. You modify A, B, C. Wow, now you have a huge, because the system is really complex.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like, yeah, we use also really fancy techniques because we know we are going to get the path to publish easier. And that's how the system works. We like it or not, we are in this system.
Do you think there's a bias then? Because let's say you really develop this fancy technique that it's really hard to read, but you get like the results you wanted. Then in term of peer review, the reviewers will be like, okay, then it's like, I agree with this, and then that's why we get a high publication paper with because of that. I
don't know to that extreme, but I can tell you for sure that if you have fancy thing, when I was doing my PhD, we sent a paper that I'm really proud of it, and in some rejections that we had a lot, and you have to get used to that. In some rejections, the main argument that you could see was that it was not fancy enough. Yeah, if you had some microscopy, if you do some fancy techniques, and it's like, yeah, well, we don't have the money, nor the time, nor it's going to improve the paper, nor the conclusions. The conclusions are there. It's just going to change how fancy it looks. And that's also discrimination. Because, yeah, maybe Harvard, big institutions in Canada, the Francis Crick Institute, Heidelberg in Germany. Yeah, you have the money. But if you are in a small university anywhere else in the world, you don't have this small budget. This huge budget, sorry, you have a small budget. So you cannot spend $100,000 in a technique. You cannot. And if the answer is, if your question is answered, even if it's not that fancy, that's not why a high impact factor should be. It should say, okay, are you answering a question in a indisputable, not indisputable, but quite clear manner? Is the science sound? It's well done, and the conclusions are supported by the results? Yes, so go ahead.
Yeah, I was a bit in this dilemma because that's why I asked you the question, because we were discussing it on the road here about my method to extract histone in yeast. I tried to simplify the system because in yeast it's a bit complicated to generate those protocols. So like if you look of it from the outside, the technique is not that fancy. The outcome is really cool because you reach your results faster. And that's why my work won't be going in a big paper.
But that doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, right?
I mean, I will say something that is going to be super controversial, but science and religion have some similarities in the way that the concept, it's nice. Faith, like having values, and it's good. But then the system, the institutionalized, it can be more cumbersome. And separating religion and science is a huge thing. But the institutionalized system of how we administrate the knowledge, the journals, the institutions, there are so many things that are not as pure and logical as people think about science. There is, like, as we say, there is ego, there is envy, there is lies, there is like so many things. There are stupid rules. The same as like, there are like things that slow down science, things that limit science. Because one thing is the concept, and then it's how imperfect humans do it. And I feel this like when I was in university, I really thought about science like the realm of logic, equality, objectivity. But it's done by humans, which they have egos, which they want money, they want recognition, they have envy. And then this was a shock when I was in the PhD. And also I have envy. I remember a really good friend of mine, one of the most important people in my life, published a paper. And when she told me, I had such a bad reaction. That's shameful. But that's the toxicity of science done by imperfect people. And it's something that we have to reflect a lot about. Why do we do science?
Do you think the toxicity comes with a highly competitive field we're in, and because we're technically highly educated? I don't know if that question makes sense.
Yeah, no, I see where you're going.
Does it really need to be that toxic? That's my other question.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't need to be that toxic. But the thing, I will not talk for others, but the thing that brings me the worst part of myself doing my PhD is that you want to be the best, you want to be competitive, you want to succeed, you want acknowledgement, you want recognition, but that brings you a really dark place. And okay, there is the pressure of what I'm going to do after that. I want a career. But at the same time, there's a huge ego. And I'm happy doing science that now my ego is there. I will not say I'm not egoless, but it's not as big as it was during my PhD. I don't like the person I was during my PhD. I'm on the competitive part. I really like teaching people, helping people. But yeah, I was congratulating people when they were publishing, but not as I'm doing it now. Now, even if you're like whatever position, you have done something to merit being there. You should be happy. You should celebrate any small victory. But yeah, I think that comes from the being a really competitive field. But I think that also we hide on the system. We think that we are really smart. I have a bachelor's degree. I have a master. I have a PhD. I'm entitled to money, to knowledge. What the hell? You're entitled to nothing. And I think that a slap on the face, like leaving a small fish tank, going to a big one, realizing that you are like just a small piece. I think it's, and at the end, you are doing this because you enjoy asking questions.
Yeah.
But I think that we hide a lot our defects behind the fact that science is competitive. It is, but we don't have to be a moron to the others. You don't have to be a bad person. You decide how you react to the competitiveness.
That's a very cool reflections, Roger.
And I was a moron. I want to say it. I behave bad with friends. So I was really. I think it's also important that we recognize these things, because it's so easy to say, "Oh, things should be done this way." Oh, yeah, because you're perfect. Far from it.
Yeah. So, what do you think about this statement that when you become a PI, I've heard this sometimes. When you become a PI, you made your, you proved yourself, and it's up to you. Sometimes it's this is the pitch to give to the students. It's up to you to make your mark now, because the PI, as a PI, I made my mark, so it's up to you now too. I feel this is like giving the impression to the PI that they're in a comfortable zone, that they don't need to do something. But I might be wrong. What do you think of that?
That's a tough question because I'm not a PI, so I have a boss. No, but I think that this depends a lot on the person, and I have to say I've been really lucky. I had 3 supervisors, and okay, when I was in the PhD, my supervisor said, "Okay, yeah, you have to own your PhD," but he was there to help me, and I never felt that it was like, "Oh, it's your problem."
Yeah,
I've never felt that way. When I was doing my first postdoc with Damien, he was always there for me. I know, but he was always there for me. He guided me, he pushed me, he supported me to go to Cold Spring Harbor Laboratories meeting. He was he taught me like so many things about managing, and then Mike, I enjoy every day. And I've never heard this. But yeah, a lot of people have been said that, and I have been said that from other PIs, and I've been said that from talking to people like, okay, yeah, you're a student, it's your, and I think that you're responsible of what you do. You have always a responsibility. I don't see pressure. It's from my point of view, pressure should be a thing that you transform it in something good. If it's bad, it needs, and I'm really bad at dealing with pressure. I'm really proud of going to therapy and dealing with these things, but I'm doing it now. I was not doing it in my PhD. And I felt quite alone sometimes, and it was not perfect. It was shitty. But I never felt, and I was never told by my direct supervisor, you are on your own. Because you are not on your own. If I'm on my own, you are not my supervisor. I mean, come on, that's semantics. That's. I think that just giving the pressure to somebody else is like, you share it. You really share the responsibility. And I have to say that there is a really important thing. Supervisors trust the students. Because they are responsible of the science. At the end of the day, they are the corresponding authors. They have to be responsible of it. But at the same time, there is a trust relationship in which, like, you have to gain my trust. And the position of a PI, it is hard. Because until you gain the trust of your supervisor, how does the supervisor know that you are not faking it? That you are not trying just to move forward with things? But just giving, just at the same time saying, oh yeah, this is your responsibility. You are doing this for yourself. You have to do it for your career. No, that's a lie, because if the project doesn't go forward and we don't publish, there is no funding for the future. Yeah, it's going to be good for me and it's going to be good for you. It's a symbiosis. It's not a commensal thing or like an independent thing. There is a symbiosis between the junior researcher and the senior researcher. Because at the end of the day, after the PhD, that's it. There is not more degrees. There are no more degrees. Sorry for my English. It's not the perfect one.
No problem, Rosie. Would you like to share with us your therapy experience? Like,
oh yeah, sure.
How did you feel going into that, and what pushed you to go through this option?
Oh yeah, I had really lovely parents, and I have a really nice childhood. But it's not easy to have good marks at high school. So I always had issues of trusting people, of feeling accepted in groups. But then you go to university, you feel like with your peers, and that was good. And I started to like open up and everything. Then I did my PhD and I had a lot of stress. It was hard economically because we were on crisis, and I was having some personal issues and I never dealt with them. So they pile up. And then when I moved to Canada, I was super happy at my lab. But then my supervisor decided to move to another province because he was getting better opportunities. And I decided to stay here in Montreal. But it was really stressful situation for me. It was really stressful personally, professionally. And I was not dealing it well. I was not being nice with the people around me. I was not being nice with myself. And then a good friend of mine told me, I love that you talk to me and explain me your issues and everything, but you need professional help because you are not on a good path. And then I looked for help because, the fact that the PI moved, I triggered some abandonment issues that I was having because I was always afraid of abandonment. And then it triggered some issues. And then, it was like moving to a lab that is just taking you. Mike took me and it was great. He was super supportive. He has been always super, super supportive. But that doesn't mean that you don't go through issues, right? Personally, because you move here. I moved here to work on this lab and I could have moved, but I decided not to.
Yeah.
So it was really tough. And then I have to say that I went to therapy mostly for personal issues rather than professional. But I have to say I didn't feel supported internally at my job. Not by my peers, but by the institution. There were some comments made that were tough.
Okay.
That were like, that can be solved without therapy, and that was a moment for me that I lost a lot of trust. I was in a country that it was not my own. I was having already, it's hard to express you in your third and fourth language every day because Spanish is not even my first language. So the experience was good. I felt really accepted. And I have to say that pandemic had a really good thing that it was like now therapy is much more accepted.
Yes.
And I think that's great. And I'm still going to therapy. It's amazing. It's really helping me to deal with my personal and professional issues. And I think that it was great. I'm glad that everything that happened the way it happened. But I think that institutionally we have to think about the students, the employees as people. So we go through rough times. We move countries, we move continents, and we do it because we like it. And not only scientists, people working in banking, people working in engineering, freight, teachers. It's your mentality, not only scientists.
Yeah.
But you go through things kind of alone. And I think it's hard. And what triggered me to go to therapy was that this event of my PI moving, he was really helpful. Damien really helped me the transition to another lab. I only have good words for what he did for me. But that doesn't mean that I had issues that I was not dealing with. And that triggered a situation that it would have been nice to have more support from the institution. That they would have asked me, hey, you're going through this, how are you doing? If you can talk to us.
Yeah.
That never happened.
Yeah.
And that never happened in several situations.
Well, coming to that, I was keeping that question. Since you have that many years of experience now in academia, we see a lot of master's, PhD student entering, leaving. How do you feel about that? What's the hardest part of everything?
That it's like, I'm sad when people leave academia because they had a bad experience. Because I think that this is on the responsibility of everyone around them.
Yeah.
And I feel that this is like, if you see something, do something. Not just, you don't need to be a PI. You can be just a postdoc, or you can be a PhD seeing there is a problem. I know that it's difficult with your peers, but if you're a little bit more senior and you somebody is struggling, dude, you have to do something. That cannot be said, oh yeah, no, you are senior for something. You have, and I'm sad when people leave academia, not because they want, it's just because they are burned out. But hey, it's amazing to change path, to go to work for a company. It's great, do whatever you want. But I'm sad when people leave for that. And I'm sad, another reason that I'm sad, it's that people leave academia and then you can say that the environment is toxic, but not saying that it's useless. I'm so sorry. You had a bad experience. Don't just give. I mean, there are many things to change about academia.
Yeah, for sure.
But just be honest. You think that science done for profit is going to solve problems that don't give money? Then let's be honest, here, your salary is being paid. You have a bigger salary because the product has a price. So don't give me the talk, oh, I'm changing the world. You're changing your pocket, and it's amazing. You can do it. It's not bad. It's not bad, it's great. And we need to move forward products because academia cannot. And this is great.
Yeah.
But for me, it's a little bit challenging, like listening to like some gurus of like the transition from academia to a company saying, oh yeah, you have to leave academia today, not tomorrow, because it's a shit environment. And well, there are really a lot of things to change. But also I have a lot of flexibility. I'm super excited of doing what I'm doing. I have been lucky to have like a really supporting supervisors. There is like really toxic environments. There are really bad places to work. Absolutely. Conditions need to be improved. Salaries need to be improved. But that doesn't mean that what is behind science done in academia, you have to say, oh, this is useless. It is not. It is not. And I would like to say all the people that say it is useless. Well, the mRNA vaccines, well, they were developed for many years. And ideas started in academic labs. And a lot of things started in academic labs. And that doesn't mean that you need the company to move the thing forward.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. But just change the things that are necessary to change. But don't say the system is useless. It can be broken, but it's not useless. Public health can be broken. It needs to be improved, not replaced by private. So a lot of public schools may need to be better, but that doesn't mean that they need to be replaced by private. Because I don't believe for-profit things. I'm sorry. And that's the thing. Maybe because I'm a leftist, but I really believe in moving a society forward as a collective, not individually. So I believe in public science, public school, public health. And of course, you need companies, and you need them. I'm not saying you don't.
Yeah.
But I'm really happy when a friend of mine decides to move from academia, finds a new job outside academia, and they are happy. I'm really happy for them. And it's really good. There are so many jobs to do. You can do like working in a company, developing a pharma. You can work in a public service, working like trying to create new laws. You can work in a school. You can work in a high school. You can work doing science popularization. You can work in so many things.
Yeah.
As far as you're happy. Yeah. And as far as you do it because you want to do it, not because you feel like whatever you were doing before, you've been forced to give up. That's what is sad.
Yeah. I agree with you on the point that I personally feel bad when people leave academia with a bad experience. Like it personally affects me because I want to go, like I would like to stay in academia and involved in that sphere, but I feel like bad seeing those people in that position and not getting help. But for sure, like you said, like academia needs a lot of things to change, but it's the same everywhere. Like even in the private sector, probably there's also things that are required, attention. And
I don't know. I know that because I haven't worked there.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I know for sure there are many things that need to change in academia. And one thing that needs to change in academia, for example, is the fact that we really need to end with toxic behaviors.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about sexual misconduct. I'm talking with abuse of power. I'm talking about scientific misconduct. I'm talking about bullying people. And you don't need to be a PI. A master student can be bullied by a PhD. A summer student can be bullied by a master. It's just a personality thing, and we need to end up with this. And the reason why is because from my point of view, when you work for a public institution or that receive public funding, you should have a higher standard. And because you are trying to influence society also, you're trying to say, okay, we have to do our best. And I don't know, I feel like at the end of the day, we are here on life 70, 80 years. Then it's gone. So just be your best, man. And okay, if you don't want to improve somebody else's life, don't do it. But don't screw the life of somebody else.
Yep. I had another question, speaking of public having access to our knowledge as scientists. There's still a lot of things to do, of course, in that field. And I would like to have your opinion on open access science.
Yeah. Okay, so I think it's great to have open access science, but not at the cost of $10,000 per journal. I think that scientific publishing needs to change. And there is like billions of dollars made by these companies, or at least a lot of money. I don't know I think it was billions, but I don't remember the number. I don't want to lie. But and then we have to pay to publish, and you have to pay $10,000, $9,000 to publish open access in I don't know whatever journal. That doesn't make sense. And at the end of the day, you are going to put your paper probably in a repository in advance. This is already public. Why are we paying this amount of money just for the prestige of publishing on this place? But at the same time, making the knowledge public is not making the knowledge accessible Accessible means that somebody can understand it. And for that, we need to work. We need to decompose what we do to make something understandable. Just saying that the telomeres are important to avoid, to maintain genomic stability, it says nothing to the general public. But just saying, okay, so imagine two sticking bars that they don't have the cap, and then they interact with each other. So if you put the cap, you prevent the two sticking bars to interact. That's like the telomeres.
Yeah.
You need to decompose the things. That's making knowledge accessible. Then making knowledge public, it's great, but also making it accessible. And I think that there is a huge amount of work to do of making knowledge accessible. There are really great people doing the work, but yeah, we have to keep on working on making knowledge accessible and making the reality of science accessible. It's like sometimes you put you say, hey, how is writing you see Stephen, what's the name? Some writers, they explain how they write.
Yeah.
And some of them get inspired and then they spend 5 days writing and they have half of a manuscript. Another writer, I think it was Stephen King, saying, I write 8 hours a day, whatever it is. And it's amazing to know that there are different, so scientists could do the same, but that's making making it accessible what you do, not making it public. But yeah, I think that science behind a paywall makes no sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Before I jump to my next topic, I've been made aware that open access science can lead to something in licensing. And basically, if you make your result public, apparently everyone could take this and commercialize it some way. So let's say you, Roger, published a nice figure. Someone can take this nice figure, put it on a t-shirt and sell that t-shirt. Apparently this is one issue that's why maybe scientists are not inclined.
Well, in theory, when you publish a paper, you have to, if you're using a figure of a paper, you have to ask the journal for permission.
Yeah.
So I guess you can do it. But I don't see the problem on that. Why not? It's not my knowledge. It's the knowledge accumulated by hundreds of scientists before me. I don't care. Do whatever. You want to do a t-shirt with my figure? Fantastic. I mean, I have absolutely no problem, because at the end of the day, okay, you say it's my paper. How many people there are on the paper? Or there is people? I have a problem. Yeah. How many authors there are?
I don't know. Let's say 10 PA authors.
Everybody contributed. You're the first one. Yeah. And then the rest 9, what did they do? It's a collaborative effort. I don't mind. And if somebody used my idea to make a product, I don't know. I mean, the commercialization of science is a really complex thing in which there are lawyers, there are so many people involved. It's a really complex topic. And
yeah. I took the example of the t-shirt because it's the simplest business plan, you take a nice figure, you print it on a t-shirt, you sell it. But yeah, for sure, making science commercial, this is
science commercialization is I have to say, I have issues with not acknowledging everyone involved in the project.
Yeah.
But that's my personal thing. It's just sometimes people give you a small idea. And this small idea that it's just maybe something that looks small, it's a game changer. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think that, you want to make a t-shirt of my figure? Just send me one, please. Just send me one. I would like to have it. But then, whatever. You want to do a mug with a paper because you like it. For example, for me, the first diffraction, X-ray diffraction of the DNA, this is art. This should be in a museum.
Yeah.
The first time that Tim Hunt saw cyclins on a film, that's art. There should be a museum of scientific art. Fantastic. The first sequence of a Sanger sequencing, that's art for me.
Yeah.
Like the first plane of the Wright brothers, that's art. So Yeah, I don't know.
Mm. Coming back to the making science accessible, so I know you, Roger, have a special channel for that, Cellular Science for Everyone. So can you tell us more about this project?
Yeah. So this project started when I finished my PhD. So when I finished my PhD, I had no paper. I was unemployed, and a car hit me. So I was at home. I was a little bit down. And as always, one of the most important person in my life encouraged me to do something. So I always wanted to do I love teaching. I really enjoy teaching.
Mm.
And then there was a friend that was doing a master's. Said, "Oh, we could do like science camps."
Mm.
And then this idea never moved forward. And then my other friend told me you should try it by yourself. So I started recording videos, really bad quality videos. I was recording with a camera. I was recording the screen with a presentation PowerPoint. And yeah, I started it and I slowly changed it. It's a small channel. I don't have many. But the thing is I don't know. I think and sometimes a video has 100 people and one person writes "Oh man, that's amazing. I didn't know. Wow. Wow. I want to check it more." It doesn't, at the end of the day, it just, I was doing science doing the PhD with a huge ego. And then I realized I was not going to be a great scientist. I was going to be a normal, average scientific worker. But I realized that I enjoy also explaining science.
Mm.
So I still, as I say, I have an ego, but it went quite down. And I think that the most important thing, take home message of this, is that when we have a personal project, friends are there to support you, not to tell you're going to fail. If you're going to tell me I'm going to fail, go to hell.
Mm.
Maybe I'm wrong, but at least I will try. So yeah. I always had this, I've always been really lucky because since university, I had a friend that she always supported me in every step I did. And I think that that's great. You will make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And then also when I make mistakes, my friends tell me "Dude, this video is shitty." Or "This thing that you're trying to do, come on, this is horrible. Try it again. Just you have to improve it." And my family, my parents are "Oh my God, you speak so fast." Even if it's 1 minute because it's a YouTube short, just make it slowly. Just try to reduce the content. But I think it's great that you have supportive friends.
Yeah.
Because, see, what if I fail? What is a failure? A failure is just something that you tried that didn't work. Yeah, but you tried.
Yeah.
So kudos for you for trying, investing your time, investing your energy. And yeah, doesn't matter. At the end, I told you, you are here to do, you are in life to do what you want, enjoy your life, and then you're gone. So yeah, that was the idea behind Celluline. It was something for me to share the view that I have of science. And I have to say, I enjoy. It's sometimes frustrating because for a while I stopped because I receive a lot of insults, a lot of comments that were demeaning, and I'm not a YouTuber. It's not my job. I do it for fun. Then I try to respond people's questions, but then there was a video that talked about vaccines. That was hard. Yeah. And there was another video that talked about twins. And then people started to say if homosexuality was hereditary or not, and went sideways. And for me, it was really hard. So I stopped for a while, and then I discovered, okay, just try to answer the comments that are helpful. The ones that are not, you can flag them and say, "Guys, I don't support this view," and then just stop it this way. But yeah, and I enjoy it. I enjoy it. And I think it's nice. And I think that every scientist that try to explain to somebody else what they do, hey, kudos for you.
Mm.
You have like 5 people that follow you. Hey, you have 5 people that think that what you're doing. It's interesting.
Mm.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Something maybe to jump off 2 elements you mentioned. The first thing I think as scientists we learn is to not fear failure because we face it every day. So like when someone, outside of science is trying to launch something and they're scared to launch something because they fear that it will fail, well, you will never know if you never do it. So you always take action.
But
that's
yeah, Charles, do you really think? I mean, we are telling that failure is there and it's going to happen, but we are punished when we fail. If failure is acceptable, it's just that your hypothesis is incorrect. Why you are punished? Why you only publish hypotheses that are incorrect? Why don't we publish hypotheses that you prove that they are wrong? I don't think that. I think that this is really nice to say, yeah, you're going to encounter a lot of failure. But I think there is a lot of hypocrisy behind that.
Yeah.
Because, you don't have results? I do. They are negative.
They're results.
They are results.
Yeah.
When your team loses, it's a result, eh?
Yeah.
I mean, the Canadians are losing a lot and they will have a good draft. The result of this season is not the cup. It's a good player.
Mm-hmm.
The result of your project not going the direction is that you know that this door is closed.
Yeah.
Why we are not encouraged? Like, yeah, okay, you didn't fail. It was just the hypothesis that maybe you will not build, your supervisor build. It's wrong.
Can we maybe imagine a journal of wrong hypothesis? And then every time an experiment is done and you get a result, it could go into that journal because it's not the results you wanted.
Yeah. I understand that we live in a world that money dictates everything we do, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know how this is going to work, but I think it could be great. I remember a PI telling me once, as an editor, it's like, if the science is good and the conclusion is supported by the results, why don't we accept the paper? It's like, yeah, it's not my work. I'm just reviewing. Are the results supporting the claims? Yes.
Yeah.
Then if you prove like protein X is not involved in this mechanism the way that we think, man, that's helpful for me, because if I'm studying something similar, I will not follow this.
Yeah. You will save time.
I understand that, it can be tricky, because then how you control for quality? I mean, you need to really, disprove something, it's harder than prove it. So a negative result that prove without a doubt that it's not involved, it's nearly impossible. But just sharing knowledge that didn't go the way that you expected. And then you restructure the paper. And then it works, you have some positive, but the negative, why you don't put it there? It's like, this is the protein involved. And we check all these 20 other proteins, and they are not. I don't know how to do it. I'm not a great mind.
Yeah.
But I don't know, that we need, come on, we solve a lot of problems. We send a man to the moon. Can we not solve the publishing system?
Yeah.
It's like strange.
Yeah. Do you feel it's slowing down the advancement we make in science? All this?
Oy. I don't know. I'm not my area of expert. I think that you really need to be you really need to be a bright mind to see if the knowledge is being slowed down or not. I don't know. I don't know.
No.
I feel like knowledge takes time to settle down. I don't think so. But also it's difficult. Now we are publishing too many papers. But at the same time, I mean, I say too many because it's too difficult to be aware of anything outside your field. So I don't know. I would say I don't have the capacity to answer this question. I don't have the knowledge.
Okay. And yeah, so my second comment to you, Roger, is to ignore what people, the bad comments, because usually people tend to forget. Let's say you publish your video on vaccine. We know is like a hot topic. It's bring a lot of controversies.
Yeah,
people will tend to forget what you mentioned, and I'm living the same experience now that I'm trying to publish some of those videos out, especially for my shorts. People comment, it's not bringing anything. This is stupid. I was like, of course, it's a podcast. I'm taking a small clip, probably out of context. You need to watch the big picture.
Well,
So yeah, my comment for you is to ignore those.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know. It just sometimes it's like you put a lot of effort, right? And sometimes you put your time, and just be. There are so many things to criticize, even about my own videos. They are horrible. Some of them. The sound is horrible. The images are like, some of them are like low quality. Yeah, you can say many things, but just don't say a personal attack. You can say, hey guy, I would like that you have content that it's more to the point. Yeah, that's helpful.
Yep.
But you don't have to be hurtful. You don't have to say like, oh, it is shitty. Just then don't see it. Just pass. Just thank you. I don't like to know about live celebrities. I just don't look for this content.
Yep.
Just if you don't have to say, you can be extremely negative without being hurtful.
Yep.
And these comments, I mean, I had some comments of some of my friends that they were like, okay, that this video, it's horrible, man.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you put a lot of effort, but I don't understand it. And one of my, Albert, sometimes like, yeah, dude, this video is like the quality. And I'm like, yeah, man, you're right. You're right. Thank you. And then he made me improve the videos. Like, okay, you have to look for a better microphone, a better camera, better quality footage.
Yeah,
that's amazing. And he's hard sometimes on me, but that's super helpful because at the end of the day, that's what I need. And but just saying like these things, just, and I've been one of this person. Just writing to a video, dude, this is like, you're wrong on that. Blah. It's like, and now I look at this like, yeah, that I could have said the same in a better way. And sometimes even at work, a colleague of mine the other day told me like, I see your point saying this, but you could have been more encouraging. And I'm like, okay, yes, you're right. You are completely right. Thank you. I have to improve my communication skills. And that was super good.
And maybe one question I had for you is, what is really a good scientist? Is it the person that expand our knowledge as human, or is it the person that give a purpose to his research and try to, make it accessible and communicate it to other people? Do we do research to the knowledge or for the people?
That's a really difficult question to answer. It depends on the field. But for me, personally, the way I see a scientist is a person that has a lot of curiosity, that is going to accept maybe the hypothesis is wrong. It's going to be open-minded. It's going to be respectful with others' ideas and trying to find ways to reconcile, because at the end of the day, your data can be unequivocally on one direction and the others can be unequivocally in another direction. Either you are right, either the other is right, or both of you are wrong. And it's something in between, just that you measure it. So I think that a good scientist at the end of the day, it's a person. It has to be a good person.
Yeah.
And then I think that a good scientist also has to do science without an economical purpose. I'm sorry. I know that this is not going to be what a lot of people wants to hear. But then the economic benefit is a consequence of what you've done. Seeking the economic benefit from the beginning, I don't know. It's not, I don't know. I will not say they are not good scientists, but it's not the science that make me feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And then I understand also that at the end of the day, this money comes from benefactors, and there need to be a purpose. It's not idealistic. We're not in ancient Greece. We're not aristocrats.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that at the end of the day, I think that science is closer to art. That's what we want to see.
Mm-hmm.
Art is just for the benefit of enjoying. Science is for the benefit of learning. And then when you learn, you are adding value to whatever you are doing. And then if this value can be applied, you can have a product.
Yeah.
But maybe it's not going to happen today. And that's the way I would see. I would like that science is also like funded, like crazy fancy ideas. You don't need to give millions, but just something to proof of concept and keep on like increasing progressively, and don't looking for an immediate benefit. Because if we just look at short term, I don't know how ideas are going to really new disruptive ideas, because disruptive ideas, they are disruptive because you don't expect it. So if you don't expect it, they look outside of the distribution, outside of what is the rule today. So they are risky. So I don't know, but for me, a good scientist has to be a good person, because a good person is an honest person, a person that respects the others. You can do mistakes. And especially for me, a good scientist has to have in the vocabulary the sentence, I don't know. I will check it. Let me come to you tomorrow. That's the first sentence that scientist needs to learn. I don't know. At the end of the day, what you do in your bachelor is learning what is known for you to discover the unknown. So you need to know first what is known to see, oh, there are holes. I can go there. You are exploring. Microcosmos, the cosmos, but you are exploring. For that, you need to know what's known. And then for me, somebody that tells you, oh, I don't know, man, that's a good starting point.
What's the most anticipated discovery you would like for scientists to acknowledge, whether it's in biology, in physics, mathematics?
That is already done, that it's not acknowledged? Or what is the next thing that I would like to see done?
Yes, the next thing.
I would really like to see ways of making pharmaceutical drugs affordable and comfortable for patients. I would like finding ways that whatever we discover can be funded, making affordable therapies. And I think that it's not discovering new things, it's discovering things or ways to do things that can be applied generally, that after the clinical trial. And I think that there is like a lot of work, there is a lot of nice work done on this way. Nice work funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, looking for ways to produce cheaper therapies, to deliver cheaper therapies. I think this is amazing. There is a lot of things to do, because at the end of the day, I feel like there is so many things that we could do that we are not doing because we cannot afford it. And these are not, it's not going to, we cannot say just make it cheaper. there are things that are expensive, man.
Yeah,
You cannot make them cheaper. Yeah, like, but you need technology.
exactly.
I would like that. I mean, there are so many things about machine learning that are amazing, and there are so many things that could be done. But I would like to see this. I would like to see that we can treat diseases and people don't go bankrupt, that governments don't go bankrupt. And for that, you cannot just say, oh, just ask the pharmaceutical companies to make it cheaper. Yes, they can make it cheaper in some ways, but at the same time, you need to look for new ways to produce and deliver therapeutics. And that's, I think, it could be amazing, because the world is just not States, Canada, Europe, Japan, and Australia. The world is really big, and we are a minority. The world, if we do things for society, it's worldwide. So we need to change the way we see therapies. From my point of view, personal point of view, just Roger Palou talking, no one else talking here.
Well, thank you, Roger. I see the time passing. I don't know if you have other topics you would like to discuss today.
I just would like to say something. It's not, you can be a scientist without having a PhD or without having a master. If you go on a walk, you take a rock and you want to know what it is, you have curiosity, and you check it at home, and then, oh, you want to know, oh, there is like crystals inside, I'm going to break it. Or you buy a telescope and you look at the stars and you see a comet. There are many ways to be a scientist. There are many ways, there are many discoveries that has been done by people without a formal education. The scientific method, you don't need a title to apply the scientific method in your life. The same way that you don't need to go to culinary school to be a chef. The same way that you don't need to be a mechanic to repair your car. The same way that you don't need to have study philology to write a book. You can be a scientist. You just need to apply the scientific method. And I think that a lot of times when somebody is not working anymore in science, for example, like, you're not a scientist. Yeah, you're still a scientist. If you just don't need to be, you don't need a title to do science. The title is not going to make you a better scientist. You can finish a bachelor and make great discoveries and be essential for a team. You can have like a college formation and be an essential person. And you can have a PhD and be dumb and not knowing even how to calculate a concentration because you were using a formula on the internet. That's not a good scientist. So scientist is not a title. And I would like a lot of people to know that. A lot of people that they had bad experiences, I would like to tell them, you work fantastic. You are more of a scientist than other people that I know. And just that the system didn't work for you doesn't make you a bad scientist. And also I would like to encourage everyone to raise their voice when they see things that are not right. Because this is really important. Because when there is a problem, when you see somebody struggling, just going there and telling to this person, hey, what is going on? You need a hand. That can mean a lot. And maybe you can do nothing. But just acknowledging this person can change a lot of things. And I think that I know that I could have done much more for some people. And I think that we can all do more for the others and for ourselves. I don't think,
Well, thank you, Roger. It was really nice talking to you. I'm going to post Roger Celluline Science for Everyone links in the description so you can check him out.
And thanks, Charles. This is amazing. I really want to congratulate you. I remember the first time that you tell me your ideas. We were sitting on the sofas at IRIC.
Yeah.
And I couldn't imagine this level of professionalism. I'm looking at the study right now. It is amazing. I would encourage anyone that knows Charles to support him. And this is a great experience. I enjoyed it a lot. And I guess, as you said, everybody has a story. And please, everyone should subscribe, watch the videos. Making the subscription is just 1 second. And that changes everything. That's the thing. You don't have to watch every video, maybe. Just check it out, but especially subscribe.
Yeah.
That the algorithm takes account the subscriptions.
Yeah. Yeah. For the story, I consider Roger as my mentor because I really wanted to have a project outside of the science, and I found really this fantastic niche to be able to discuss with other people about our experience as researchers, scientists, and in academia.
Yeah, you're doing a great job. Congratulations.
Thank you, Roger. See you, everyone.